The dead world is a prison. However, people tend to misunderstand those moments when it seems to defy its most hideous and despicable features. Forests, by way of example, are often romanticized for their beauty, but they are merely cracks in the dirty prison walls that keep us from the dream we came from, and exist as nothing more than fleeting reminders, symbols, for our freedoms lost beyond all this dying flesh. Granted, a dark forest is one of the thinner barriers separating us from whence we came, and thus why some confuse it for the thing it imprisons. But a barrier nonetheless. Obviously, the same can be said for basements filled with the moldering dead, attics containing chests stuffed with burned toys and faded photographs, forgotten graveyards steeped in twilight, mysterious holes burrowed impossibly deep into the earth, haunted houses made from balewood trees, and all the other places where the night endures beyond the day. Undoubtedly, all these prisons contain occupants, vigorously testing the locks to their cells, but to my knowledge none have ever escaped. I can't remember a single thing that happened during the Great Darkness, so I could be wrong on this point. This isn't to suggest that the dead world is without limits. Its prison walls can be scaled, even demolished, as was demonstrated by New Victoria. However, the relevant distinction between New Victoria and the dreams that strain behind even the darkest environs is that New Victoria was never a prisoner of the dead world. As strange as it sounds, the nightmare metropolis actually chose to invade this wretched world. As we approached the city, the ruined flesh of the dead world was already peeling back, exposing overturned military vehicles filled with old bones and crusted blood, mass graveyards, sour winds stitched together from countless last breaths, and the wandering patches of strange, sweet-smelling twilight. The dead world was hemorrhaging nightmare. Here was no symbol for dream, only dream itself, open and free. Yet, for all of that, New Victoria was no refuge for mankind.
I can't fucking believe you really want to be here,
said the man who had just recently failed to kill me for the second time. I have to be here, and despite everything I know, I want to be here. These things are clearly not our dreams, and must be nothing but the predatory nightmares of things that dwell beyond the shallows of human sleep. However, regardless of their malevolence, beauty is beauty, I said. Strangely, I found myself enjoying my conversation with Mr. Grimes. Words are so often nothing more than thoughts hidden behind masks of noise, but when speaking with the killer, I found my words pleasingly free of disguise.
Yeah, well, because of you I gotta be here, and I sure as hell wouldn't have come to this fucking place if I wasn't forced to. You gotta be crazy if you think there's anything beautiful about this freak zone.
I hadn't considered it before, but I wondered if that invisible force that draws people to abandoned shacks in the woods and gifts them with dreams pressed into yellowed paper was still aiding me in my journey. Surely those things that dwelt in the city beyond sleep wouldn't see me coming. The deathly bus, now festooned with the ornaments of a butcher's red holiday, couldn't be taken for anything less than a conveyance for pilgrims of nightmare. Perhaps Mr. Grimes was sent to assist me.
By the way, I already know you got some weird twist about beauty and art. The newspapers is always saying something about you thinking yourself an artist. You really think those screwed up corpses you leave behind is some kind of artwork?
I wasn't sure Mr. Grimes was supposed to understand my work. Should a dream know it's a dream? Might that have been what caused us to wake up in the first place? I imagine a true dream, free and wandering, shouldn't precisely know anything about itself. Should it be so greedy as to possess a self at all? Humanity's true calling is to exchange all of its pointless knowledge for wonder, and Mr. Grimes followed his dark curiosity wherever it led him, even if it had been temporarily hijacked for a higher purpose. No, the demon bus driver was far too busy chasing his darkest visions to grasp the purpose behind my work. He could only see its spectacle. "Pearls before swine, Mr. Grimes," I finally said, not wanting my host to think me unaware of his jabs.
Actually, I got a kick out of those guys you made into the big snake that was swallowing itself. That was some funny...
Mr. Grimes suddenly stopped speaking and strained his small eyes to look at something close to the road. Moving through the nearby trees, sketched in fog, were 4 wisps of women. They were clad in bedclothes and loping through the rough thickets, helping one another along, exuding a despair that seemed to roil the fog that outlined them. Their collective gaze was fixed upon the wakeless city that loomed close by, and I could hear hungry secrets whirling around them, hissing them onward. Soon they were gone, swallowed by the forest, but it was clear where they were headed.
So what do you think they were up to?
When Mr. Grimes retracted his gaze, it brought something warm and wicked back with it, and I could feel his hunger burning deep within the secret killing machines of the bus. Whatever the killer's dark curiosity would have done to the women, I was certain it would have been a pleasure compared to what was waiting for them in New Victoria. I obviously knew something of the endless horrors that would prey upon a man who might fall asleep there, but I'd only heard whispers of the hell that awaited a woman foolish enough to rest her head upon solid nightmare. Now my own dark curiosity was beginning to take hold. I'm not entirely certain what they're up to, Mr. Grimes, but it would be a terrible waste of mystery not to find out.
So you're really going in there, huh?
Mr. Grimes stood against the backdrop of his mechanical shadow, looking past me at the malefic city of endless nightmare. Indeed, I am, I said, turning to join his gaze at the thing that could destroy me.
Well, before you take off, I just gotta know. Why didn't you kill me? You could have just driven the bus on your own. You didn't need me.
I wasn't quite sure how to answer him, as the question required a galaxy of nuanced explanation, time, and vision. After a pause, I produced a suitable explanation. I can't drive stick.
Fair enough, I guess. One more thing. Those weapons of yours really made of your own family?
Of course.
Yeah, kind of figured they were. Well, I know you're going to get out of there alive, but, good luck trying, family man.
With that, we took our leave of each other. I watched as the hunter of dark roads disappeared into the dust that first unveiled him, slave to a hunger darker than death, a thing that consumed its prey with hidden killing machines living deep within its corroded shadow. The street I stood upon was severed by a portion of the massive steel and concrete wall that surrounded the entire city. A futile effort to contain what sleep would only free again. The length of the wall was punctuated by gaping holes, torn apart by a storm that blew out from beneath beds and beyond sleep. I entered the city through one of these massive breaches. It was lined with an amalgam of encrusted human remains, warped together into a frustration of biology and nightmare that denied rot its purchase on flesh and waking its power over dreams. The city rose before me, denuded of all earthly obstruction and covered in the blood of twilight, defiling the cold reality that lay in shambles at its feet. New Victoria was almost beyond words. Its body had been shaped by the hidden fears and explicit terrors of countless dreamers. Its soul solidified beyond the broken minds and benighted screams that once nurtured it. When the shadows of the city finally converged upon me, I could feel the gossamer touch of unseen hands whispering across my mind, eager to find a door. Meanwhile, the invisible intrusion into my thoughts caused my sister to rise from her red dreams, deep within my own darkness. So long as she dwells in that city of living nightmares, her words carried beyond her radiant smile.
So many greedy hands and old hungers. What wonderful gifts you have brought me, sweet brother.
I could feel the heat of her delight. Her blazing smile burned the darkness around me, searing shadows too foolish to run from fire.
Oh, you silly shades. Shouldn't you know what grinning terrors can await you behind closed doors? My dearest brother's mind has shadows all of its own, and will suffer none besides. Now, there'll be time enough for playing, and I'll be more than thrilled to savor those screams as they pass betwixt my glittering metal teeth. but now is the time for hiding, I'm afraid.
At my sister's prompting, my hunter's silence poured out from me, drowning what remained of the alien whispers that called out from undead dreams. I slipped from beneath the scattering pack of shadows to find shelter beyond the gaze of the wicked city. I quickly found the darkness of an abandoned hospital and blended into its stillness. Careful not to linger on any one shadow for too long, I made my way towards the oldest silence. I could feel the currents of quiet rushing out of a stairwell that descended deep into the bowels of the structure. As I moved to the top of the stairs, I noticed 4 sets of small, delicate footprints descending into the dust. I immediately knew they belonged to the quartet of women I glimpsed earlier. As I followed the prints, I realized they seemed to sink further down into the dust and grime that lay heavy and thick upon the steps. It was as if the women had suddenly become burdened by something heavy. I waded into the densest currents of silence and darkness, finding that the footprints had been joined by 4 sets of handprints. Clearly the women had crawled down the last few steps into the darkness. The prints then disappeared altogether. I halted my descent to examine the anomaly, and while the dust and filth betrayed nothing useful, the silence showed signs of having been broken. Moving beyond the last of the stairs, I encountered a set of wide double doors. The word above plainly stated, "Morgue."